you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Moms Freakin Rock Postpartum Podcast. Today, I have the lovely Tina Welch here with me, who is going to talk about her motherhood experience. She has one grown son. Her and her husband share one grown son together, so she's going to talk a little bit about her postpartum experience with you guys and give some advice to some moms out there. So we're praying that we touch millions of moms with this video, with her sharing her testimony. So Sister Tina, give us a little background. Tell the people all about you.
So my husband and I have been married for over 32 years now.
Okay.
And our son is 29, just turned 29. According to my master plan, when I was younger, I was supposed to have 3 children, but only ended up with 1 son. It was not that we didn't want more children, but it didn't happen naturally. And so we didn't feel that we wanted to go through any special treatments or anything like that. And so we were blessed with 1 son. When we got married, we had that conversation that we wanted to have children. I'm the baby of the family, and my husband is the only child. So we were thinking like 3 would be great because they would have people to play, someone to play with, and it wouldn't be on just my husband and I. But that didn't happen. And as a result, my son became part of our lives. And I'm like very busy. I'm in a variety of different organizations. I on several boards, and then I have a very busy work life as well. So when my son was born, I was not one of those mothers that wanted to stay home. I had the luxury of at the time of having 10 weeks of maternity leave. And I called my boss and said, can I come back after 6 weeks? And they said, no, you had to stay off 10 weeks. Huh? Exactly. Because I thought I would be more nurturing and wanting to do more things with my son, but it just didn't. It didn't happen like that. Not that I don't love my son or anything like that. It's just, changing diapers and walking around the mall with a baby stroller, that's just not me. So I was ready to get back to work. But my son and I developed a strong bond early on. He's not afraid to be around people because he was always around people from the time he was born. I can remember when he was 3 years old, I was choreographing the dance for the cotillion, and he was trying to learn how to dance with me. And as I was teaching the Debs and their fathers the cotillion dance. And some of those cotillion young ladies still remember him to this day, and they ask about him because he was just on my leg the whole time, trying to figure out how to dance. So one thing that I learned early on as having an only child, some behaviors and things that are happening, you don't know if it's normal or abnormal. And so I found talking to other parents about different stages of his life really helped me figure out what was going on with my child. And so I didn't become overly alarmed when things happen. I just would talk to my girlfriends. I was like, he's doing this or that now. And they'll be like, oh yeah, my 5 babies did all of that and this. And so from that perspective, that helped kept us grounded.
Yeah.
In addition to that, right, we always try to be there for him and let him be his own person. Again, I'm very busy, outgoing, and that's not his personality. I'm very process oriented. I'm very organized.
She is very organized. I can attest to that.
And that's not my son. And so if you ever have taken the Myers-Briggs test, there's a category that is feeling or logical. Mm-hmm. I'm the logical side. Mm-hmm. My son is very much a feeler, and so he's very passionate. He's very empathetic with others. His mother, not so much. I'm like, these are the rules, and this is how we do it. And so he has helped me not to be so rigid because of his personality. I had to change the way that I interact with people because I'm interacting with my son. And so that has helped me grow as an individual and be more understanding and be more passionate about things and understand that everybody is slightly different. Yeah. And it's okay. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is that early on, my son was not meeting all of the milestones that I thought he should. And so I was an advocate for him in school and with the doctor, and like saying something's different, something's not right, and getting him the help that he needed to actually be his best self. And so I just encourage other mothers to be that advocate for your children and teach your children to be an advocate for themselves. Yeah, so because when he went off to college, I was like, you got to tell him what you need. If you need more time for the test and you need additional study help, and he was comfortable doing that because I taught him early on some of those things, and we went through that through his K through 12 education. So by the time he got to college, he was like, yep, this is what I need. Yeah. And I don't have a problem speaking out. I don't have a problem going to a professor and saying I need extra this or extra that. And as a result, he was able to finish his college education in 4 years with a bachelor's degree, and was able to secure a job right away. Awesome. And I was like, and at some point I was thinking that he might not be able to because he wasn't, like my husband and I, that very like driven kind of person, but he did it his way. Right. And I had to let him do it his way. Yeah. And that's the hard part is letting him do it his way because, again, I have in my head how things should be done because I've studied stuff. I've been, I read books and I'm like, okay, the book said you're supposed to do X, Y, Z, and ABC. This is how it's supposed to go. And, when he was a baby, that's why, they said only feed him 4 ounces and just burp him and then put him down. And I would feed him not 4 and a half. I would feed him exactly 4. I would measure it and all that kind of good stuff. Lord. And Brandon would not go to sleep at night. And he hungry. That's what the visiting nurse said to me. She was like, baby, I know that you read 4 ounces, but the baby will spit up when he's full. I was like, well, he ain't supposed to do that. And she was like, if you don't, he's not going to sleep. I was like, is that why he's not sleeping? And she's looking at me like, at this point in time, I had 2 degrees. I had my master's and I'm an engineer. And so I was like, I read. And she was like, okay, I'm going to need you to. Like pour, tick. Exactly. And she gave me some other tips because sometimes you could be overeducated about a topic and you just don't use common sense. Right. And so she was looking at me like, I'm going to need you with your 2 degrees. Use some common sense about your child. And so I took that advice from that visiting nurse, and I started to apply that in all situations with my son. That was just a cute example of me trying to follow the book, follow all the rules, because I'm a rule follower, process oriented. But I think the good part about that is like you sought the help though. Oh, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Because when things don't work the way that it says in the book, I'm like, well, wait a minute, what did I do wrong?
Mm.
And so I always seek out um, to get advice. Now I don't take all advice because some of my girlfriends are a little crazy. I was like,
I ain't doing it that way.
No. I said, you did what to your child? I was like, okay. But you can sense, ladies who have, been through some things with their children and things like that you trust.
Yeah.
And seeking out their advice is a good thing. And once you get that advice, you gotta apply it and tailor it for your your child.
Yeah.
You know your child and what will work. And so sometimes you try things out, it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and then you're on to the next thing.
Right.
But seeking out that information, because if you don't, then you are not providing your child with everything they need to grow and be a good member of society. And so we chose to put him in a private Christian school because we felt that having a Christian background was essential to him growing and learning and being a good person. And to this day, he just has that nurturing heart. He loves the Lord. He's just a solid person, and that's something that you have to start when they're little. You can't wait until they get 11 and 12 to share that with them. They got to grow up with them and see you in action and how you interact with people and all those things. And so being around the church and going to a Christian school also helped him grow as an individual. And I think that that's very important, excuse me, from a perspective of if their only influence is from the outside and you're not pouring into them, you
disaster.
Exactly. Yeah. And you got to pour into them. And, to this day, my son and I talk about a variety of different things. And we may not always agree, but I'm a sounding board for him. And he trusts my opinion about things. And he'll make his own decision, but with guidance.
Right.
And that's all that you can ask for, because the world out here is crazy. And things are not just what they seem. And sometimes you need to help them understand the difference. And so, yeah, that's what's, as I look back over him growing up, being a supportive mother as well. Now, I'm not a sports mom. That's not me. That was my husband. He did all the sports, but I was, supportive in other ways. And I was there for him anytime that he needed me or in any of those things. And I think that that's also important as well.
Yeah.
Showing up to all the games, that's great, but you got to be there emotionally as well as, making sure that they get to practice, because that emotional piece is what will move them forward when they're having tough times and those kinds of things. And they'll have something to grab onto and try to figure out life, because, life is not a bouquet of flowers all the time. And so how do you deal with that and move past that? And I think that that's one thing that I have instilled in my child is, even when he was knocked down or didn't do as well as he wanted to do, he kept pushing forward and he made his way through. And he is still doing that to this day. Now, he doesn't do everything that I ask him to do.
I mean, what kid does, right?
Exactly. And he doesn't like, I had dreams of him being whatever. He's looking at me like, Mom, I don't want to do that. And so I have to be okay with the fact that he doesn't want to be the next TV newscaster.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be behind the scenes. He enjoys being behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoys doing all that. And so I want him to be out front so I can say, that's my son.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, no, I'm
ain't
not doing that. That's
Put
not
those
me.
dreams to the side right now.
Exactly. But he can shine in other ways.
Exactly.
And I applaud those other ways that he shines.
Mm-hmm.
So it is about him and it's not about me. And, my husband is part of a fraternity and I'm part of sorority and I'm part of this women's club. That's not him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to join any of that or do any of that. And we're both looking at him like,
what? What kid is this?
Exactly. Like, why don't you want to be? He's like,
he's his own person.
And that's the part you hit the nail right on. I love him for being his own person.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me some time to get to that point of saying, it's okay that he's not going to, do these 10 things. Because, I had a list because I'm organized.
Yes.
of all the things that he should be doing by the time he's, 20, 21.
Mm-hmm.
My list was not his list.
Right.
And I had to be okay with my list. He might only do one thing off of my list and he'd be like, he's like, I graduated from college with a degree.
Boom.
Okay.
He's like,
now leave me alone.
Right.
Because, wait a minute, and I have a job with benefits.
See, praise the Lord. That's all you could ask for.
And so he was like, I was like, well, don't you want to?
What more do you want from me?
Okay. Exactly. So I had to step back and say,
mm-hmm.
that's my son, and I'm proud of you, and you do you, and mom's good, and everything like that.
I think that's beautiful though. Like I know it's hard
mm-hmm.
as a mom to
mm-hmm.
see your children like veer off of your course, right?
Because there was a list.
Yeah, you're supposed to follow this list, but I think it's important to note how you were rooting behind him though. Like, okay, even though you're not doing it my way, I'm happy with what you're choosing. Like,
Yes.
And I feel like that's so important because a lot of times there's a lot of parents who are like, no, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. If you don't, I ain't paying for it. And then they leave their kid high and dry.
And, the pressure behind doing those kinds of things can cause other physical and mental scars
exactly.
on your child. And so I didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved him so much that I had to let him go
mm-hmm.
and just be himself. And again, because of my personality, that was harder for me than it was for my husband. My husband was like, okay, whatever. I'm like, well, don't you want him to? He was like, Tina, if he don't want to do it, he don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
staying up at night like, you gotta do it.
Wait a minute. And so then I'm over here making up a master plan on how I'm going to get him to do it, right? And then I'm thinking to myself, this is craziness. I'm up all night trying to figure out how you going to do something.
And he sleep like, I know what I'm doing more. I don't know what she's talking about.
Exactly. And one thing he did get from me is he's stubborn. If he say he ain't not doing it, he ain't doing it. And, I can try to bribe him in so many different ways and stuff like that. He's like,
mm-hmm.
I'm still not doing it.
Right.
Or he'll pretend like he's doing it and he's like, nah, I'm still not doing it.
You want to shake him? You want to shake him?
Exactly. I do want to shake him, but then I had to learn as a mother. I'm like, Tina, you got to let this go because you the one to get in the gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still like happy.
Living his best life.
What you say? and I'm over here with a wrinkle and gray hair, worried about him trying to get him to do something he don't want to do.
Best life.
Exactly.
He's like, you can have it.
And I think it might have been different if we had more kids, and I would have
more chances.
More chances to spread my love and all that kind of good stuff like that. But he used to say to Derek and I, y'all ganging up on me, y'all tag teaming. I was like, yes, we can, because you're it.
Because I ain't got nobody else to pick on. So
well, and even when we tag team him, he was still like, I'm gonna do this for right now. But as soon as y'all turn y'all back,
I'm off to.
I was like, okay, all right.
I love it.
But yeah, so he appeased us through some things, but other things he really didn't want to do. He was like, I'm just not. And so I just think that as a parent, the sooner that you learn to let go and like my mother used to say, let go and let God and put it in God's hands, then the better off that you are. Because me trying to control the situation, trying to help him with my list and demands and all that kind of good stuff, just was not working. And it was causing more frustration and all that kind of good stuff on his part and my part. And so by just letting go, it's like, okay, he picked up on the essentials. And he's doing those things now, and he's a productive member of society. And
there you go.
And that's all I can say. He's a productive member of society, and he's 29 now. And I can't believe this seems like yesterday you were telling me how old your children were. That he was on my leg doing cotillion dance, trying to learn how to dance. Now he's like, okay. And I'm still doing the cotillion, and he's still like looking at me like, why are you in part of all these organizations and doing
in these streets? Okay,
exactly,
on the boards,
exactly,
organizations, wife, career, church, all of it.
Yeah.
How do you juggle all of that? How were you juggling all of that when he was young? Like,
so what happened was that Derek and I worked together as a team, and so we would plan out our week, and he would accompany us to all the meetings. We would be at his practice, and one would pick up and drop off, and so it was just a big coordination activity. Now we could easily do that with one, right? Because it's just one set of practices. It's just trying to get him from one place to the next, and people don't mind helping you with one,
right?
Right? They'll be like, Brandon can ride with us, but when you have more than one, it becomes a lot more challenging. Right. I would venture to say, but with one, we were able to work together as a team. And one thing that I did learn early on, after I had Brandon, is let Derek, my husband, do it his way, right? Because I was traveling for work when my son was 10 months old. So I was gone 4 days a week, and would come home on a Thursday and fly out on a Sunday for about, it was a 6 months contract in Boston. And so Brandon was there with Derek, and, I would see Brandon. This is back when we didn't have FaceTime and all this kind of good stuff. I would hear him on the phone and all that kind of stuff. And so when I get home, Brandon may have on Mitch two different socks. They don't match. The shirt, because I was coordinated. I was like, I put his little outfits together in the drawer, and Derek wouldn't follow the process.
He ain't doing that.
And so I had to let that go and let him, bond with Brandon the way that he bonded with Brandon. And when I can remember one time I come in and Brandon just had a blowout in his diaper, and it's all up his. So Derek has him on the changing table. He's like laying out the wipes. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like laying them out. Like he had a little process going. I was thinking like, and I could hear my mother's voice in the back of my head, like, Tina, let him alone. Is Brandon dying? No, Brandon, like, he's fine in his own poop.
Right.
I'm thinking like, can you get it off of him? But Derek had a little process going there, and I had to let him do his process, unless I was gonna go in and take over. And I can't take over everything.
Every time.
And so being okay with the way that Derek did everything, the way he fed him, I know that he was the treasurer of his fraternity
Mm-hmm.
at the time that I was doing that traveling. And so Derek would take Brandon to the fraternity meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and the bros would be passing Brandon around while Derek is giving the report and all that kind of good stuff like that. So we had it down.
Yeah.
We had a village that was
Mm-hmm.
helping us
Mm-hmm.
to raise Brandon, and so
Mm-hmm.
that was very much important. And our in-laws and my parents lived in Dayton, and so if we really ever needed something really bad,
Mm-hmm.
we could always have them come down.
Mm-hmm.
But we built up between our fraternity and sorority sisters this little village that we could feel comfortable dropping Brandon off
Mm-hmm.
if we really needed to, or you know, him being included in play dates and all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we would take family trips together
Mm-hmm.
to Florida and go with another family that had more kids so he could have the full experience, all those things. So it was definitely a village. But I do have pictures of Brandon in a pumpkin seat at a fraternity meeting. And Derek is standing up giving a report. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's okay. He was safe, and Brandon was like content.
Chilling.
And he was like, so. And that's probably one of the reasons why he doesn't want to join.
I was going to say, he probably was just in it too much already.
He was like, is that all y'all do is give reports?
and
be in a meeting? Okay. Exactly. And stuff like that. Yeah. So, but it does definitely take a village. And my girlfriends who used to teach Sunday school, they were like, we always knew who Brandon was because he would come in with his 3-piece suit on to children's church. And I was like, yeah, because I could dress him. Right. Now Brandon doesn't wear a suit. He doesn't have a suit in his wardrobe.
So you won't catch me with one. No, sorry, no.
No. But everybody knew who he was, and everybody watched out for him. And yeah, and to this day, that all my sorors that you know were around when he was growing up, they ask about him, and he has so many aunts, and that he can count on. Yeah. If he needed something, and they're like, we do anything for Brandon. Yeah. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So it sounds like we needed to learn to let go of the control.
Oh, yes.
I'm talking to myself. You know, my babies are small, but I'm using this as I go about my motherhood journey. You know, my motherhood journey. And it's so wild that you were talking about all this because I was going to ask you to define success in your own words and how to raise a successful child. But I feel like you gave us a lot of answers on this because one, you said to teach him about Christ young, and then you were talking about making sure that you didn't only advocate for him, but that he learned to advocate for himself in the world. And I love that. And he did the foundation, the basics. He went to school, he graduated, he got him a good job with some benefits.
That's what I kept preaching to him. He was like, my mama said I had to have a job.
Right, my mama said. My mama said.
Exactly. And he brings that up every once in a while. He said I had to have a job with benefits. That's what I have. Because I have a 401k, Mom. I was like, you know what? I can't stand you now, but okay. I did say that.
Right. I'm just doing what you told me to do. So.
Exactly. So yes, I would say, and the last thing that I would say is just love them for who they are, and don't try to make them something that you want them to be. And I'm a believer that they come here already, you know, having thoughts and things about what works for them. And you just need to nurture that and bring it out of them and let them be the best person that they can be,
Mm-hmm.
and not try to force them to be something that they're not. Because we have so many people in the world that are miserable because they were forced to, because they were
Mm-hmm.
forced to do something that they didn't want to do.
Right.
And so, again, I just love him for who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he hasn't completed my list of 10 items,
Hang it up.
still, okay.
Hang it up. It ain't happening, okay? Now maybe now when you, I was gonna say, now maybe when you have a child, you can put that. You don't even put that list on the child. Nope.
No,
Burn the list. Well,
everything.
I love it. Well, that's great. You see, I really didn't have to ask a whole lot of questions. Like, you came on here ready, so thank you for that. Organized, always ready, always ready. I appreciate you being a guest on our Moms Freaking Rock Postpartum podcast. I truly believe that this is going to help a lot of moms. It's definitely helping me. So if I ever feel like, okay, I'm about to be in control, nope, let it go. That's what I'm taking from this. Let it go.
Let it go. And
let them
God
be their own children.
Yes.
And just nurture who they are inside, and
exactly
everything will blossom how it's supposed to.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Moms Freaking Rock Postpartum Podcast. Make sure that you guys subscribe and you like and you share with another mom who you feel can definitely take something from this video. Until next time, bye.
Bye.